To say that 2020 was a different year for boating would be wildly underselling just how much the world changed with the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I can't even be sure things are totally back to normal when you're watching this, but what I am sure of is, like a lot of you out there, we here at PowerBoat Television were able to find a silver lining and discover a whole new love for our favorite activity right here in our own backyard. And our backyard of Ontario has a rich history of boat building. If you're feeling nostalgic, you should be. In the 70s and 80s, the J-Craft was the quintessential ski boat. It worked extremely well for slalom and even better for barefooting because it had virtually no wake at high speed. Of course, this was before wakeboarding came in and flipped the towboat game on its head. In the 90s, the company went bankrupt like a lot of Ontario boat manufacturers, but John Jones's original hull designs were out there. Fast forward some 20-odd years, and J-Craft is back with some wicked new improvements to bring it speeding into the 2020s. We were invited here to the factory in Parry Sound to see just how they're breathing new life into these boats. I'm not an employee, but luckily, Chris gave me the secret knock.
Drew.
Chris.
How you doing? Come
Great.
on in.
Thanks for having us.
Come on in. So Drew, this is upholstery. This is where Gwen makes her magic. And as you can see, we're well underway with another set. You know, you referred as you came in as the factory. We don't look at this place as a factory. This is our studio. This is the J Studio. And this is where we create works of art.
What originally motivated you to rebirth this line?
I've had a couple of J's growing up, 2 or 3. I have a marina. We renovate boats. We did a J for a customer, Randy Marshall. And when I took it for a test run to see how it performed, I just wanted that boat. So that led me to talk to John Spaeth, who was building them in small quantities, and realized that we needed to build a new boat, a bigger boat, and here we are.
So how important is it that you stay true to that original J vision?
This truly is a California ski boat. It still is. It's always going to be. Materials are better, procedures are better. There's many changes on the boat, but essentially the interior space is 20% larger. It's 21 feet.
For somebody who's maybe not as familiar with water skiing, how would these J's compare to the inboard ski boats that we see a lot today?
Well, the key element to this boat is that it's simple. There's nothing more fun to drive. It drives like a 911 on rails. It's low to the water. It'll take all the training booms. We've actually incorporated a tower for 2021 for barefooting, not for wakeboarding. It is not a wakeboard boat. The wake is very, very low. If you know the J's, you know that. If you don't know a J, there's no wake. Yeah. I grew up skiing with J-Crafts, and to see them back on the water is just such a cool thing now. It's overwhelming, the amount of people coming out of the woodwork. Our first boat that we sold, as soon as he saw the boat, he bought it on the spot, the first one, bam. And how much do you guys build in-house on each boat? All of it. Everything? Soup to nuts, yeah. Frames of the seats, the upholstery. These seats are identical, except for one thing, they're bigger. Because everyone tends to be a little bit bigger nowadays. For 2021, we actually have a full redesigned rear seat. Can't wait to see the rest of it. Yeah, let's go. Come on in here, Drew. We have a look at a plug that we're doing for a little creature comfort on the foot kick. It's a cup holder and accessory tray. From this plug, we'll do a fiberglass mold. From that fiberglass mold, we'll lay a fiberglass part. Obviously, we haven't had any cup holders in the past. No cup holders on the old J's. This is a new thing coming in for 2021. Yeah. Are you still using wood in the construction of the boats? Absolutely. You know, there's many characteristics, technical characteristics, but most of the construction of the framework and the floor and everything is still wood. It's safe to use if used properly. And has the wood changed at all since back in the day? All materials have gotten better, but we still take the precautions of wet coating everything and all the templates and patterns, and we use wood for a lot of stuff. That's why this little department's essential. But no fiberglass in here? No fiberglass in here. Outside. All right. Let's go. So this is one of our, or my at least, most proudest pieces. Yeah. Let's have a look. This is our prized possession, the molds. This is what makes it all happen. Traditionally, these were made by hand. This new 21 mold was made in CAD. We first scanned a prototype, and then refined roughly about 15 little things, took the motor well out and whatnot. It's all symmetrical. It's all perfect.
So how does your construction differ from some other manufacturers?
This is bonded together, so it makes it essentially one solid piece. And that's one of the things about the J.
Yeah.
It's always been a very solid boat. This is the mold. We just pulled the deck out of it. Let's go have a look.
Cool. And this is it.
This was just pulled out a couple of days ago. Any little specks that aren't quite 100% will make them 100%. To see the finished product, let's have a look.
Right over here.
Yeah, this is
It's a thing of beauty.
this is my actually favorite boat.
Yeah. So on the old versions, there's the traditional transom with the well in it, but this is not traditional boat building anymore, right? Hence the jack plate.
There was no reason for a well. Bass boats, bay boats, they all have jack plates, and it just gives you more versatility. This one's set up for ski schools and people that would ski a little bit more. There's no back seat.
Right.
For 2021, we have a totally different back seat that'll grow into side seats and whatnot over time, but for right now, we have a back seat.
And another great Canadian invention, which we haven't seen before on outboards, the Perfect Pass.
Yeah, the Perfect Pass Stargazer is fantastic. We've been running this through the course. If you know anything about Perfect Pass, has elevated this boat as a ski boat, leaps and bounds.
Are there other outboard boats that have Perfect Pass on them? I don't think I've ever seen one.
No, it's the first. You want 34 miles an hour, you get 34 miles an hour. You want 32.5, you get 32.5. Once you get above a certain speed, 36 miles an hour, goes into barefoot mode. We actually have had a couple pro barefooters behind it that love the fact they can dial in their speed.
Yeah, and something else that barefooters would love, the boom setup.
This actually has a fiberglass stringer. In that fiberglass stringer, there's half-inch aluminum plates that these bolt down to.
Dual gas tanks?
No, one gas tank, two fills.
And I would imagine that's nice for weight displacement.
Yes, it's up front, keeps the bow down.
Another thing that I've noticed is there's no hardware for lights up front. Is this boat not meant to be driven at night? Whoa! That is very cool.
They're 2 nautical mile lights, Coast Guard and Transport Canada approved.
You and your team have done an incredible job here in the J-Craft studio, bringing these works of art to life and bringing them into the 21st century.
Yep.
And if I'm not overstepping anything here, can I get behind the wheel?
Sure, let's go.
All right. This is the J-Craft 21SS. If you're feeling nostalgic, you should be. This is the J-Craft 21SS. If you're feeling nostalgic, you should be. One thing that hasn't really changed is this classic low-profile look, because when you knock it out of the park with the Porsche 911, you really don't have a lot to change to get to the 992. And this baby really is like a sports car ripping down the highway with the top down. In the old J's, the ski pylon was bolted to the middle of the floor, which posed a few problems, not the least of which was it got in your way if you were trying to sit in the back seat. Now you can see the pylon is integrated into the hull right up through the transom, so you can still sit 4 people on this aft bench, even while you're taking somebody skiing or tubing. In the classic configuration, the driver faced forward, the spotter faced back. Now this passenger seat swivels and locks, so you can face ahead when you want to, or aft when you've got a skier in tow. Ooh, you know that feeling when you first sit down into the driver's seat of a Lamborghini? Well, me neither, but I can imagine this feels a lot like that. Let's take this baby for a spin. And as far as time to plane is concerned, well, there really is no time to plane. You hit the throttle, there's a bit of bow rise, but then it's right back down. This thing jumps right up on top of the water so quick. Perfect for pulling up a skier or even a barefooter. This thing's rated for up to 250, but even with that 200 SHO VMAX, this thing is humming. The Speedo Max is out at 50 miles an hour. I have a hard time believing I wasn't going closer to 60. The hull is so well designed to ride flat on top of the water, and that's why you get such a small wake for skiing. There's 2 skegs up the center line, and those things bite right into turns like you're in a Formula 1 car cornering at Monza. You can put this thing right up on its side at high speeds, and you just feel locked in like you're on a track. It is absolutely incredible. Still, they're a ton of fun because you're basically sitting on the floor of a flat-bottomed boat. And in the old ones, you really were. I gotta commend them for the ride comfort in these new designs. The seats propped up a little bit more. It's a comfy ride. And you're not gonna find much that can barefoot like this thing for the pure fact that most ski boats can't do the speed that this thing does. These are fantastic in the right water. Even with a little bit of chop, there's virtually no wake at high speed. Probably wouldn't want to use this on big water, but as a hardcore slalom boat, maybe a small lake cruiser, this is an absolute blast. I feel like somebody took 2 hooks and just hooked them onto the side of my mouth. I just can't stop smiling driving this thing. All I can say is I hope the new J-Craft sticks around for a long time, and if they're building boats like this, I see no reason why they shouldn't.
So what we're seeing here is the very first step in the actual structure of the boat being built.
Started in 1974 by George Rossiter, who was building wooden rowboats in his shed. Well, the Rossiter line has expanded quite a bit since then, as has the company. And as you'll see inside their factory here in Markdale, Ontario, they still value building boats the traditional way, one by one, by hand, each and every day.
Built a couple of boats, wood, and then enrolled in a place called the Yacht Design Institute in Blue Hill, Maine. And I did a degree, what they call diploma there, in the marine technology program as a marine architect. And a marine architect is someone that designs boats under 100 feet. I built the company up a bit and was primarily just working on my own. And then it got to the point where I had to hire some people to help me. And then in 2003, I set up my own fiberglass production shop. Had more control over the quality. And then unfortunately, I got kidney cancer and I sold the company. So I pretty much just retired completely, and then that brought me back on occasionally as a consultant. So I helped them with some of the design features, and I came up with this little boat called the Rossiter 14-foot outboard. And a lot of the deep V boats go down to a point or a small radius. And I thought maybe if you just cut it flat, so it actually had a flat surface, the boat would lift. Changed it a few times, got it the way I wanted it, and I thought, now I can get molds made. So that's what I did. My whole emphasis from the day I really started working on boats was to do the best quality of materials and construction. And I'm very happy to say that the people that have taken over the company, they've really, really pushed quality all the way through, and they're really well-made boats.
The fiberglass boat's actually built from the outside in. So what we're seeing here is the very first step in the actual structure of the boat being built. The first thing we do is prepare the mold. So it's got wax on it so the structure will actually release.
Yep.
And you can see Marty has taped off what will be the waterline stripe. The first thing that's gonna get sprayed is this area that's green right now. So that'll actually be the surface of the boat that rides in the water and the surface of the boat that you see. So if we pop around the corner here, we'll see another hull that's already had some antique white gel coat sprayed in it. The gel coat itself does block water, obviously,
yeah,
but over time, gel coats will become permeable.
That's a barrier coat?
That's a barrier coat. We like to do the entire hull. We feel it gives us a better finish on the boat.
I was expecting that to be on the outside.
The color that's like by his knees is the antique white.
Yeah.
So you'll never see this. This is on the inside of the boat.
Yeah.
The next step after this is goes over and gets the skin coat. So what he's operating right now is the chopper gun, almost like razor blade wheel that chops it, mixes resin with it. After he sprays this, he'll roll it with a roller and roll it down to a smooth surface. What we're getting ready to do here is do the structural glass layup on this deck liner. Take all these, they're all labeled, stick them in specific spots in there, wetting it out with some resin and rolling it out. If you imagine this thing and rotated it counterclockwise, yeah, you can actually see what would be the seats, the ski platform. This has all been skin coated here, and then you can see we've bonded in core. The core itself is what adds a whole bunch of structure and stiffness to a fiberglass boat.
And is this the design of a future boat that we're gonna see right here?
Maybe.
It looks like a fun one. Where do we go from here?
We're moving into the assembly department. They have the deck, they flip it over, they do the wiring, they turn it back over, they put all the deck hardware on. The hull comes over from pre-assembly and gel, and the fuel tanks are in it, all the piping. Once the two parts are ready, it's capped. So the deck liner gets put on top and it's bonded. And then they do all the finishing things, like they put the rub rail on, the cushions are installed, they put the locks in, they just put the whole boat together.
All that attention to detail that we see throughout this factory leads us right here to this, the finished product, which in this case is a really beautiful and quite frankly impressive 14-foot boat ready to be shipped to some lucky customer somewhere in North America. With so much attention to detail on the hardware, the interior, and even the accenting in the rope rub rail. Such a clean look, such an impressive boat. And really the only thing left on my mind is we gotta get one of these in the water. This thing punches way above its weight class. I think it can do big water, even though it's a relatively small package. Having just been through the Rossiter factory, we were able to connect with its new owner for his perspective on the boats. So Blair, how did you get involved with Rossiter in the first place?
I was an owner of the Rossiter boat. It was definitely an initiative of the heart rather than the head. But a couple of years in, you put a really strong foundation in place, which should serve the company well deep into the future.
Outside of just that's where they've always been made, is there a reason why you'd build boats in Ontario?
Probably the single largest hurdle that the company has to overcome is doing business in Canada. And there's tremendous pride in the fact that we, produce these boats in Ontario, Canada, notwithstanding all the challenges and saving a company that's manufacturing something here. There's not many of us left.
As an Ontario builder or a Canadian builder, then how do you stay competitive in this sort of more global market?
The easiest and best way is just to do what we do, which is, Rossiter is an iconic Canadian brand, equally known for its classic design as it is for the quality of construction and the strength of its performance. What we do have going for us is that the boat was originally designed and engineered for outboard power, and here, 30 years later, we find ourselves in the middle of a tremendous global secular trend towards outboard power.
What does the future hold for Rossiter?
I think we'd like to be able to meet the built-in demand that we're facing in our current markets, expand our presence in U.S. coastal markets where we already do really well with the Rossiter 20 and 23. There's hurdles to jump over, there's burdens to bear, but to date we're doing okay, and we just have to be disciplined, and I think that in the future we'll do just fine.
The newest boat in Rossiter's lineup of outboard runabouts was demanded by its fiercely loyal customers who wanted something between the 17 and 23-foot models. The result is a classically designed but surprisingly utilitarian runabout that oozes quality craftsmanship and attention to detail. This is the Rossiter 20 Coastal Cruiser. I really love this layout. Even with how simple it is, it's still one of the more unique cockpits I've seen, with this full-length bench along the port side, these rear-facing seats behind the consoles, and these removable cushions which hide the transom walkthrough. I grew up with a strict no stepping on the seats rule, which, to give my old man credit, is smart. You can do a lot of wear and tear to your upholstery if you're stepping on it all the time, but something like this would have really helped. Almost every boat I get in has the dual bucket seat layout, but Rossiter has put in this double wide bolstered bench so you and your partner can ride off in the sunset together. Obviously, Rossiter is building boats for happy families, not like these other guys putting all that space between the captain and the co-captain. One of the great things about outboard power is the space that it gives you on board, but that often comes at the expense of the swim platform. But check out the size of this great big swim platform here. It's built right in the hull, so almost full beam access. There's a 4-step ladder recessed into the floor, wet storage compartment, battery access. Again, just smart, simple design all over this boat. In the transom, we find a pop-up ski pylon that stows and locks away flush. Teak-accented storage along both gunnels is easy to access, while dry compartments under each seat can keep life jackets and other gear fresh and out of the way. Seat cushions hold in place with a jigsawed tab that fits snugly into the storage lid only while it's locked. The larger storage in the aft bench can be optioned as a live well, and that starboard bench can be removed in a flash to open up more room in the cockpit. Seagrass mat snaps into the flooring, where faux teak marine mat is also an option. A great big locker in the floor can hold skis and paddles easily. Both the passenger seat and the double-wide helm are bolstered. I like the look and simplicity of the helm with wood finish and rockered switches easily accessible, and the dash has room for a 10-inch graph to sit flush mount just below eye level, and vents on the side windshield let in a nice breeze on a hot day. Under the foredeck is a cuddy cabin that can be used as storage, a daybed, or even a head, and the compartment door is well designed with a convenient step up to access the bow, where we find an anchor locker that can fit both a windlass and an optional 4-step reboarding ladder. Like I said, I'm really curious about the time to plane on this R20. I mentioned the weight displacement, but also the deep V hull has a lifting pad on the center line, and that's designed to put the boat right up on top of the water. So I'm expecting big things. Here we go, moment of truth. Ah, look at that. Almost no bow rise. We're up on plane like that. That is sweet. This thing rips, man. This is a really nice ride. Now, there aren't a lot of boats under 22 feet that I'd feel comfortable taking out on Georgian Bay or Lake Ontario or the Gulf of Mexico, but this thing punches way above its weight class. I think it can do big water even though it's a relatively small package. The deep hull really slices through the waves, the ride comfort is incredible, and it looks great doing it. Now, that's a really nice cruise, 29 miles per hour, about 4,000 RPMs, burning 7 gallons per hour. See how it takes these bumps. It's not easy to build brand loyalty in the marine market, but Rossiter's managed to put together a pretty devoted group of owners by finding something that works and sticking to it. This is a really impressively built boat, made to stand the test of time. It's built right here in Ontario.